live now. For some reason, it will not allow me to rotate the screen. So just give me a moment, you guys, and let me fix this, okay? So I'm sorry about this. Hold on for just a second. All right, let's see. Okay, all right. Okay, so it's just going to have to be like this. So, anyway, I'm talking low because I'm outside and my voice does carry. So, and when you're in these quiet areas out here, it just, you know, I, it's easy for your voice to carry. So that's why I'm not trying to sound like got my DJ voice on or nothing like that. But anyway, so glad that you guys put it in the chat for me. Let me know if you can hear me. Hopefully you can. But anyway, just wanted to jump on here real quick. First of all, welcome. I'm glad that I hope you guys are having a wonderful, wonderful day. It's a very lovely day out here in Arizona, and I'm just out here chilling, enjoying it. The weather is gorgeous, beautiful, and just finished on my breathing exercises. Someone said, "How are you doing?" I'm doing fine. Thank you, Willie, as always, always showing up, bro. Appreciate you, man. But I wanted to jump on here because you know, I have, as you know, I have been on it, y'all. We have been on it when it comes to just this latest thing we have been really digging into. And, this whole topic of Jewish involvement in the transatlantic slave trade. And while some people may see this as some kind of attack or something like that, it's not an attack. If anything, it's an attack against ignorance, and we are trying to break all of that because we just want to know the full story. And we don't believe, like Jews, we don't believe in just forgetting the past and that's it. No, we want to know the full story. And that's the whole point of why I am doing what I'm doing on this platform. But anyway, but I wanted to jump on here real quick because I wanted to give you a few examples of why it's so important, particularly us as black folks, to make sure this volume's okay, to make sure that we are preserving our culture. It is so important, y'all. It really is. It really, really is. As you know, in this age of AI, you know, it makes it a lot easier for many of us to find information. All you got to do is simply type in something and boom, it comes up. It gives you information, and there you go. That's it. You just completely, in many cases, we just blindly just accept what, be it ChatGPT, be it Grok, be it um, whatever your favorite LLM is. We just accept it, and that's it. You know, but it's a very dangerous trajectory. And this is something I have been warning people about, even as ChatGPT and all that was really starting to hit the mainstream. I was warning black folks. I said, listen, we cannot allow ourselves to get into a space where we're just simply trusting whatever these systems just spit out, because we don't control the narrative. And a lot of these platforms, be it ChatGPT or whatever, um, they the information that they give you is their preferred information. In other words, they have a whole list. If you're asking about whatever it may be, car repair, it could be about planting fruit trees, it can be about a number of things. They are going to give you their approved and preferred information first. They're not going to give you everything. And the reason behind that, they would say, is that this is something that we believe has panned out to be the best information. We have determined that this is what you need to focus on. But the problem with this, um, but the problem with this kind of thinking is that what it does is it ignores a lot of great information that's out there. And there's a ton of great information that's out here that gets ignored by these platforms. So I'm going to give you a few examples of what I'm talking about and why it's so important, and then bring it all together and tell you why it's so important for us to preserve our own history. Okay, so this short that I just did recently, it was about, it was just talking about how you have, there was two examples where you have Jews that are, whose names are on the title of these knowledge repositories, like museums. Like I named the Schomburg Center, that was one, which is located in Harlem. And then I mentioned the other place that's in the at Howard University, right? So I mentioned that one as well. And, I had some people say, now let's talk about the Schomburg Center. I had a couple of people point out that, well, the Schomburg Center was actually named after a gentleman by the name of Arturo Schomburg, and he is an Afro Puerto Rican who, and if you can look up his history, this is a guy that actually loved African and Black history, and he used to just collect it, right? And so they said, so you're basically, that's, he wasn't Jewish. And I just simply said he was Jewish. And so, and what I get that from is this. So, what a lot of people did is that they did a search on whatever it is, ChatGPT, name the platform, and it tells you emphatically right off the bat, no, he's not Jewish, right? But here's what I did. You got to go a little bit further. What I did was I said, okay, tell me the history of the Schomburgs in the Caribbean. That's our neighbor's dog there. I said, tell me the history of the Schomburgs within the Caribbean. And once I put that in, oh, it just went to town. It was like, oh, the Schomburgs, they were, and it says German immigrants, and but they were also, a lot of them were also Ashkenazi Jews. Okay, and then why you didn't mention that before? It says a lot of them were actually Ashkenazi Jews. Then it goes on to say how many of them were merchants who had broad networks throughout the Caribbean. I mean, come on, who else are we talking about here? And so it goes even further than that. It didn't just stop there. Then it goes even further than that. Then I said, then it says, oh, Arturo Schomburg is a cousin of Alex Schomburg. So I was like, oh, isn't that interesting? Because these LLMs like giving you extra information you really didn't ask for. But I said, keep talking, tell me more. And I said, well, tell me more about Alex Schomburg. So I said, okay, I'll tell you about it. Well, yeah, he basically is Jewish. And I was like, oh, really? Okay, keep talking, keep talking. So I was like, okay, so they're related, and it says and it literally said contrary to popular belief they were related. So I was like, oh, okay, all right, so they're related, but you're 110% absolutely sure no, but Arturo is not. And so basically, yeah, so what someone said a while back, and I shared this on our platform, is that when you're working with these different platforms, you have to know what questions to ask, right? It's very important you know what questions to ask, because if you were to get on there, like a lot of people are doing right now, and to say, um, hey, who were Jews, did Jews control the transatlantic slave trade? Well, the response is going to give emphatically no, they were not in control of it at all. And basically, how dare you even ask that question and all of that. And it really goes on a tear when you ask that question. But remember what I just said earlier. It's going to give you preferred response. Now, if you've been following this platform, you know that I've also pointed out how Israel, the state of Israel, has recently come out and said that they are working with third party companies, basically their companies, with platforms like ChatGPT to ensure that any query that you do regarding Israel or Jews, that is going to be their responses. It's going to be what they want you to know. Okay. And so what that does, it eliminates all the other information that's out there. So when you type in, hey, who controlled the transatlantic slave trade, it's going to automatically pivot you to the responses they want you to know. But as you've been following it, for those of you who've been following our platform, we have been going to the books that they have actually written over the years. Some of these books are out of print. Some of them they just you just can't even find them anymore. But we've been able to find some of these books. And in their books, they tell a much different story. There are many passages where they're actually bragging of the fact of how much control they had in the transatlantic slave trade. But ChatGPT, Grok, or whatever, they will never tell you that. They won't tell you that. But all you got to do is go to their books, and their books will tell you that themselves. This is not someone who's not Jewish. These are Jewish scholars. These are Jewish professors. These are Jewish researchers that over the years have documented their own actions. You understand? And so this is why it's so important for us to make sure that in this age of AI, that we any type of information that we get our hands on like this, that we are that we are preserving them. Someone asked, what books cite them? Well, if you've been following this platform, that's all I've been doing. I've been citing many of these books. Go back to the last video, go to our community page. I literally have a free document that outlines at least 10 to 12 books. You can download it with their quotes. So I've literally have given this information and I continue to give it. Not only that, I've taken it even a step further. If you go to our community page, again, right here on YouTube, we have something going on right now where we have over 700 digitized books that I've been collecting over the years on topics ranging from slavery to the transatlantic, including the transatlantic slave trade. I got a whole entire section of Jewish authored books that talk about during that time. I got a ton of books on that. These are all digitized books that they wrote about their involvement, not just in the transatlantic slave trade, but also during the Jim Crow era. There's a ton of books that are out there, and these are over 700 books, books about our history, black history, that we've written over the years, many, again, that are out of print, that are hard to find, over 700 digitized books that you can download right now. Go to our community page, number one, and I have the step-by-step instructions. It's very easy. Once you go there, you'll see the post where I talk about how you purchase it. It's $9.99. It's one-time fee. That's it. I'm not doing some month-to-month thing or anything like that. It's $99.99. And I put the step by step. All you got to do is go to our Cash App. The link is there. Go to our Cash App and you can just follow the instructions. Make sure in the notes page, make sure you put in the notes section, make sure you put your email address, because if I don't have your email address, like someone purchased today, I don't know where to send it. So I'm just waiting for them to kind of figure that out, and then I'll send it to you. And so, yes, I will more than happy. So this is what we're offering, and then between last night and the night before, I've been adding even more information to it. And so, and not just books, but I've been also um, uploading documentaries, speeches, teachings, all kinds of stuff that I've been able to acquire just over the years. And we're going to keep on adding more and more stuff to it. So it ain't just what you have there, it's a lot more stuff. So it's so important. So getting back to this whole thing about the Schomburg Center, again, when we talk, for those that just jump in, Arturo Schomburg, if you look him up in everything from Wikipedia to ChatGPT to even Grok, they will emphatically say, heck no, he is not Jewish. But as I said, if you ask about the Schomburgs and who they were in the Caribbean, it will tell you a much different story. But you wouldn't know that if you didn't know what questions to ask, or if you didn't have their own books that explain all of this stuff. And then I took it even a step further. Now, the Schomburg Center is basically a collection of African American history that is under the auspices of the New York public library system. Now, when you look at the New York Public Library system, at the top contributors over the years, all of them Jewish. Now, some people may say, well, that's not a big deal because we needed a way to preserve our stuff. Okay, so you're telling me that black folks had no way of preserving our own history unless we had their money and unless they put their name on it? No, absolutely not. Name me a Jewish museum, name me a Jewish library, name me a Jewish repository that has the name of black Americans on it. Name me one. How many Holocaust museums has the name of a black American on it? You won't find that. In fact, it's very disrespectful, quite honestly. Because if you really trust black Americans to preserve our own history, then if you want to give money, okay, fine, give your money. But why you got to put your name on it? And I'm telling you why. Because many of these people actually sit on the boards. They make the decisions on what goes in our repositories versus what does not go into our repositories. They are decision makers. And what I am saying is, why is it that us as black Americans, we always have to have the gate open for other people to help make our decisions that we should be making? If you go to China, you are not going to find a Chinese history museum that's ran by Mexicans. You're not going to go to Ethiopia and find their museums ran by people from Japan. It doesn't happen. So, why is it that for us as black Americans, we require the help and assistance of other people that way? The truth is, we don't. This is their way of basically having some type of control in our history. Look at the history of the NAACP, for example. The NAACP was an organization that was largely started by Jewish people. Now, when you look at today at the NAACP and its effectiveness to Black Americans or Black American people, you notice, I mean, this is why black folks look at the NAACP and roll our eyes because it has been ineffective. However, this same organization has been very effective for the causes of other groups. You understand? So, this is why I am very emphatic about the importance of us preserving our own history, preserving our own culture. And so, this is why we're doing this thing with all of these books that I have. And these are just digitized books I have. I have a ton. I got boxes of hard copies that I purchased over the years. Maybe one day I can, if people are interested, I can scan them and start offering that information as well. But I have made it a mission for years to make sure that I am collecting as many of these precious books as possible because ChatGPT, Grok, any of these LLMs, they will not even mention them. They won't. I did a search today and I forgot what I was asking. I was asking something and it was something about Jewish and slave trade. It had something to do with that. Oh, what was it? I don't have it in front of me right now. But it was a very minor question. And it had this whole paragraph at the end emphatically saying Jews only played a tiny bit of the transatlantic slave trade, and so you have to be very careful with this. And I'm like, hold on, why are you telling me all this? I didn't ask for all of that. I'm simply was asking this, and it was like, oh, I'm sorry. It basically was like, my apologies. I didn't, basically we have to be careful and all this stuff. It was literally saying this stuff. Now I'll tell you another thing that happened. It what was it? Oh, I have run into several times. Now, again, if you don't have that book, The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, you definitely need to get your hands on it. We kind of know where you can go to get that. But if you've been listening to me, I've already been telling you. But there were a few books that I came across that I could not. I found quotes, or I should say, I was finding quotes, but I was not finding the exact sources. So I had the quote and I also had the name of the author, but I didn't have the book. So in everything that you'll find in that document that I have on our community page, you notice I have the quote, the page number, and the book. If you see the book cover there, it's because I physically have that book. Okay. And that's me verifying that these quotes are in the book. Well, anyway, there were some quotes that I was coming across that I could not, or quotes I was coming across, I couldn't find the book. And so I would go to Grok and I said, hey, can you help me find this book, right? Where does this, I got this quote, but I don't know where the book, I can't find the book. And so what Grok literally did, Grok said, oh, it told me the name of the book. It told me the name of the author. Okay, check, good. But then it did this. It said, but this quote actually is something that was used in the secret relationship between blacks and Jews. And then it went on to say, this is a very anti Semitic book. And then it goes on, and it went on this whole riff about how anti Semitic the secret relationship between blacks and Jews was. And I was like, hold on. I wasn't asking about that book. I was asking about this quote and who what was the name of the book. That's all I was asking. Why are you riffing off on that? So what I have been discovering is that these people are so embarrassed about their stuff. All of these books that they have come out saying the direct opposite of what they are forcing down our throats, that now they are trying to rope in these books and try to associate it with the secret relationship between blacks and Jews. Not that that's a bad book, because it isn't, but they put so much mud on that book to try to distance people from it to make it radioactive. And so now they're taking their own books and they're saying it's Farrakhan, that's Farrakhan stuff, that kind of thing, making people think twice and three times and being afraid to even pick up their books. But no, we're not going to do that because now we have the record. So this is why, again, am emphatically stressing that anytime you come across any source, when you hear stuff, never fall into the trap of retweeting or reposting quotes that you believe come from these people. Don't ever do that unless you personally verify it yourself. Because if you don't personally verify it yourself, you are leaving yourself wide open. Okay? This is something I have learned over the years to never fall into that trap. Always verify it. Even if it's something I post on my platform and I may make it into a meme or something like that, make sure you take the time as an individual and verify it yourself, verify the source. This is, if anything, I want to teach you, it would be that. Always take the time and verify it yourself. And then, secondly, never, ever, ever just blindly trust these platforms. I'm talking about ChatGPT or Grok or Perplexity or all the other ones. Never just blind trust them, because again, the information that they are providing is information that they prefer, their preferred information. They're not giving you access. They're not telling you about these other books. The only way they will tell you about these other books is that if you tell it, hey, did you hear about this book about the, such and such, such? And be like, oh, yeah, that is right. You understand? It will always do that. But other than that, it's not going to blindly just tell you, about these books. So this is why, again, my personal advice. So this is why we're doing this thing right now. And as long as they allow us to keep it up, we're going to keep it up. Go to our community page. On our community page, we have a link to I have the link how you can access the digital library, over 700 books, digitized books, and I am adding more. As I get the time, I'm adding more and more and more. And like I said, many of these books, they're either out of print, some of them have even been banned, and a lot of them, and some of them are even hard to find. So I'm doing putting in the work to make sure that we do what we need to do to preserve this stuff so that us and our children can have access to these things and that we can pass it on to them and we can tell the full story, because there is an onslaught that's literally going on right now, and that's what we were playing the other day with Dr. Tony Martin. He was literally talking about this. He was saying that in one of the advice he gave towards the end of his video, he said, as long as you stand on the facts As long as you stand on the facts, they can never do anything to you. And as hard as they came against people like Dr. Tony Martin, they tried to ban him, they tried to shut him down, and all of that. But they could not deny. They could not. One thing they couldn't do is accuse him of being a liar. Why? Because when they looked at him, they saw a reflection of themselves. Because all he was doing was holding up their documented history, and that's what I am telling you to do in this hour right now. Because the thing that really pissed me off, that really started me, because I was already going in this direction anyway. The thing that really pissed me off, that really got me fired up about this, was the fact that the new trend that I'm hearing from a lot of them right now is that they are literally saying out of their mouths that historically they are the most persecuted people in history. That's what they're saying. They're saying that they're the most persecuted people in history. And when I heard that, and I'm looking at your books, like we read the quote the other day, they said, as long as black people, this was from a Jewish author, they said, as long as black people were present, they said their feet never touched the bottom. That's what they said. I didn't say that. They said that. But this is the new line that they're pushing, that they are the most persecuted people. Everyone's always hunting them down. It's making it so they're saying that on one hand, but on the other hand, you're boasting about how much you can control. But you see what I'm saying? So no, the way you handle it, you don't name call. Don't ever get into name calling. Don't get into the tropes. You just simply stand on the historical facts. All right. Now, me as a content creator, I can only give you but so much as far as like the video. Like, I'm not going to read a whole book. However, I can give you as much as I can on video, but the rest, for me, I'm going even further. I'm not going to tell you, here's a little excerpt and that's it. I'm taking it even further. What I'm doing is, here's an excerpt, but here's the whole book. You read it for yourself because there's a lot more. And we're literally, for the most part, are giving this stuff away. So don't sleep on this. All right. All right. So, yeah, again, go on our community page and you'll see the link. You'll see how to get it. It's very easy. And as soon as people get it, I'm literally flipping it and sending you the link. But you have to make sure you are providing me with your email address, number one. And then number two, what was I going to say? Number two, if you don't have Cash App, that's fine. Just look for the thanks button, and you may even see it on this broadcast here. Make sure you look for the thanks button on any of our videos, and then you can pay it that way. Then send me an email to connect@journeymanandwoman.com. Connect@journeymanandwoman.com, and let me know, hey, I just paid, and I'll take care of you. All right? But make sure you get your hands on this collection, y'all, because we definitely need to preserve our stuff. Because in this world of AI, they are not trying to do that. We should never rely on AI to preserve black history and culture. We should never put ourselves in that position. Now let me take a look at some of the comments I'm seeing here. Um, Question: can I download new additions to the library? I've already downloaded the initial 700 books. Yeah, just keep going. As long as you have access to that library, you can just keep going back. And what I'm doing is every time I'm adding something new, I'll create a new folder and you'll see it. Like, I don't, off the top of my head right now, I have to go back and see. But when you go back to that link, you'll start seeing new folders. Like, it will say, like, for December, for January, for February, so forth and so on. You know what I mean? So I'm always, so as long as you keep that link, you'll see, oh, oh, dang, I didn't see these folders. Make sure you go keep going back, because I'm not blending it all in. I'm just adding more folders, right? So if you go back now, you'll probably see a folder for documentaries or videos. And so I'm gonna keep on doing that. Every time I add something new, I'll put it in that folder. Um, Right. Someone said AI doesn't have the final say. Let me see what else we got. Someone said BS. They play both sides in their world. Yep, they always do. He in controls tech, controls the contents, hence what is sourced from history. Exactly right. Exactly right. And look at all the people who control AI, who create these platforms. Look at all the people. Why they all come from the same group. And do you think they are really concerned about preserving black history and culture? No. No, not at all. Um, Coach, he said, that big, beautiful bill, I had to upload the physical bill myself to retrieve more objective information as opposed to simply asking AI for information. Yep, exactly right. Exactly right. Exactly right. And you know, Coach, what I do sometimes just to be funny, just to be funny, I already know what the answer is going to be. I would say like when I do that and I will accuse it. I said, "Are you giving me information based on how you were programmed?" Just I already know. I mean, it's a dumb question. It's a very dumb question, admittedly. But I was just curious just to see what it will say. It was like, and then it comes back and say, "No, no, no. This is," and it tries to take me through this whole logical thing to try to convince me that somehow it's sentient and it's came up with these things on its own. I was like, man, if you don't go sit down with that, um, I'm trying to see what else. I think that's it. That's all I have, y'all. But I don't want to keep you on here too long, but I wanted to jump on here. So I'm saying regarding to the Schomburg Center, what are your thoughts on Arturo himself? I mean, I think you've had good people throughout history, regardless of their backgrounds, who had good intentions. And so what I will say, and so what we do know about Arturo, I don't think, from what I know, I don't think he was someone that was like, yeah, I'm going to collect all this information about black people. And he has some sneaky ulterior motives because we don't know that. And I don't want to insinuate that. But what I am saying is this is that the information that he collected because of his family connections, it has been given to a group of people to gatekeep it. Now, if you look at the board of the Schomburg Center, I'm sure you'll see a lot of black faces. But at the end of the day, they gatekeep. And I'm going to give you an example of that. Now, I've had my criticisms of Ron Dalton and Hebrews the Negroes and all of that. But the fact of the matter is, this is his work. And he is a black man. Okay. And he went to the Schomburg Center and said, and they have a theater there. He went there and said, "Hey, I want to use my money and I want to use your theater to present my video." Now, again, he's a black man. He's got a documentary that he put his money on the table to make, and the target audience is black people. Now, regardless of what I personally think about it or you or anybody else, that's irrelevant. This is a black man going to a quote unquote black controlled repository or library or museum to show his video. They vehemently rejected him. It didn't even make it. They shut him down real quick. They said, "No, we're not playing this video." Now wait a minute now. So who was making that decision? Because all the black people that I knew of, they wanted to see it, and they had every right to see it. But the Schomburg Center said, "No, we don't. We shut you down." I don't know if many of y'all remember that. I remember that. I remember him filling out the paperwork and trying to get. He applied. He did everything that they asked. If you want to rent, all he was doing was renting. I wanted to rent out the theater. They shut him down. They said, "No, you can't play that video here." You see what I'm saying? So don't tell me, not you, but I'm saying, so people don't tell me that somehow this is all of our stuff and that's it. And, we got the final say so. No, we don't. It's under the control of the New York Public Library System And when you look at the top contributors are the ones that make the final decisions. And that's the part that people will never look at. So when you do these basic searches, like for example, if you were to do, I can't speak but too loud. So you may have to turn your volume up because I'm outdoors and my voice, it carries. I'm sorry. So so I'm going to say this one more time and I'm done. If you want to, anytime you do a search on any of these platforms, ChatGPT, Grok, um, any of them, take the take that information, but you as an individual still need to cross reference it yourself. You still got to do it. You still got to do it. This is why one of the tips I will give you is when any of these platforms give you information, always tell it to source it with links. Okay, that's one thing I would advise you to do. Tell it to source the link. Don't just tell me, give me the links so that you can look at it yourself. Now, I spend hours and hours and hours on this platform. I'm just telling you what I've experienced. And so, one of the other things I've experienced is when I would say, give me the links, and then I check the links myself, I find that it's skipping some of the more pertinent information in there. And I'm like, well, why didn't you mention this when you gave me the feedback? Why you didn't mention this? Why you didn't mention that? Why'd you leave that out? And then they'll be like, oh, it literally does that. It's like, oh, well, it just wasn't important. I'm like, it's important to me. Put that thing in there. And so this is the kind of stuff I'm saying. So never, particularly us as black folks, we've had too much taken away from us. And AI is just another way. If you're not careful, is going to continue to start shrouding a lot of this very important information. So the collection of real books should be paramount for all black folks in particular if we really care about the preservation of our history and of our culture. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I wanted to jump on here real quick and just really emphasize that. Again, go to our community page, get on that digital library that we have. I will continue to the best of my ability to continue to add more and more and more and more resources as I come across them. So you're not just getting that, you're getting so much more. All right. And then as you get them, like this one person said, man, I got on there and I downloaded everything. Good. And that's what all of you need to do. All right. So when you get access to it, don't just think, oh, I can always come back. You can always come back as long as it's up. But as soon as you get access to stuff like that, don't assume. Get that access, download all that mug, put it on a separate drive somewhere so that you got it. So ain't no question. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just telling you. So anyway, that's it. That's all I have for you guys. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. You guys take care. And yeah, we'll be talking again soon. All right. Thanks again for joining me today. Take care.